In a small village surrounded by dense forests, there lived an orphan girl named Leila. She lived alone in an old cottage on the outskirts of the village. The villagers avoided her. Children were afraid of her solitude, and adults saw her as nothing more than a weak girl with no family to protect her. One day, while gathering firewood near the river, Layla heard a rustling sound among the trees. She turned slowly and gasped. Before her lay a giant serpent, its scales shimmering under the sunlight, its glowing green eyes locked onto hers. She froze, expecting it to attack. But the serpent did not move aggressively. Instead, it lifted its head slightly, watching her with an almost curious gaze. Layla hesitated, then slowly stepped back. The serpent remained still, its eyes following her as she hurried away. That night, Layla couldn't stop thinking about the serpent. Unlike the villagers, it had not looked at her with fear or disdain. The next day, curiosity led her back to the river. To her surprise, the serpent was there, waiting. As days passed, Layla and the serpent developed a strange connection. Whenever she walked through the woods, the serpent followed at a distance. When she sat by the river, it lay beside her, its massive body coiled protectively. It never harmed her, never hissed in anger. One evening, while returning to her cottage, Layla tripped and scraped her knee. Tears welled up in her eyes, but before she could cry, the serpent slithered closer, lowering its head. It nudged her gently, as if to comfort her. She hesitated before placing her hand on its smooth, cool scales. Then, one fateful night, disaster struck. Bandits raided the village, setting fire to homes and stealing livestock. Layla woke to the sound of screams and rushed outside. She saw shadows moving between the flames, and suddenly, one of the bandits spotted her. Before she could react, the giant serpent emerged from the darkness, its body rising like a towering force. With a deafening hiss, it lunged at the intruder, its massive form striking the ground with such force that the bandits screamed in terror and fled. The serpent coiled protectively around Layla as the villagers watched in shock. By morning, the fire had been put out and the bandits were gone. The villagers, once fearful of Layla and her mysterious companion, now saw the truth. The serpent had saved them all. From that day on, Layla was no longer an outcast. The villagers welcomed her, and though they still feared the serpent, they also respected it. It was no longer a creature of terror, but a symbol of loyalty and protection. And as for Layla, she had finally found her place, not alone, but with a friend who would always stand by her side.